What you just said is jam-packed full of some very serious but subtle information, which has a lot to do, actually, with international law. And you mentioned NATO, for example. NATO doesn't belong in Afghanistan. NATO doesn't belong anywhere at this point, really, whatsoever, because we don't see wars in Western or Eastern Europe. You mentioned Zbigniew Brzezinski. That was Carter's Secretary of Defense, and he wrote a book called The Global Chessboard. And, of course, we can't not mention the Project for the New American Century and their global military hegemonic agenda. You running for the Green Party, you saw it firsthand. The Democrats basically rolled over to the Republicans because the agenda of the Democrats is very, very much the same as the Republicans. I mean, basically, you say the Green Party offers some very simple, logical solutions to things. I think of Duke Ellington saying, if it sounds good, it is good. And everything I've heard you say, it just sounds so good because of the stuff I think in my head, if it's about international law or illegal invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan and things like that. So what is you, as a president of the Green Party, or as the president-to-be in the Green Party, what would you do to bring the troops home, say, and to ensure domestic tranquility, take care of, say, the economic agenda, education, health care, etc.?
We would allow people around the world to exercise the self-determination that they're due as a part of their human rights. And when they make a decision as to their form of government, their type of leadership, then we should respect that. And if we put peace as our foremost objective in our international relations, then we can have peace. And we can offer to the world something other than bombs and missiles. I authored the Arms Trade Code of Conduct piece of legislation while I was in the Congress because it was clear that in one generation, the United States armed people who failed to respect human rights and weren't democratic in their processes. And then in the next generation, U.S. soldiers, young boys and girls from our country, were facing the very same weapons that we had sent a generation earlier. Clearly, something has to be done to stop this deadly cycle. And what I would invite people to do is to get outside of the box. Step outside of the matrix. Expectorate that darn pill that they've given us that precludes people from seeing the truth and experiencing reality. Don't swallow that blue pill. Let's take the red pill and get out of the matrix. Once we do that, then we lose our fear. For example, I have been lambasted in some quarters of the corporate press because of this notion of spoiler. Oh, are you going to become the Ralph Nader of 2008? Well, quite frankly, in 2000, we had a flawed election. And that flawed election resulted in 1 million black people actually going to the polls and voting, and their votes weren't even counted. 78,000 of those 1 million black votes were not counted in the state of Florida. So don't talk to me about Bush having won by 537 votes. We know it's bogus. We know it's not true. But what happened behind the scenes that allowed the Democrats, that encouraged the Democrats to capitulate and give up the White House that the voters had given them? The Democrats let their own voters down, because I can guarantee you those 1 million black votes, 900,000 of them went to the Democratic Party. Why didn't the Democratic Party stand up for its own voters? And then, of course, we know what happened in 2004. And what the votes that weren't counted in 2000 is only a part of the story, and those who have seen American Blackout will know that another part of the story was the creation of these lists that prevented people from voting at all when they showed up at the polls. Now, today in 2008, we have voter ID laws that have been passed by legislatures across the country. We've got the voter caging, which was exposed through the U.S. Attorney scandal, and yet the Democrats have said nothing about election integrity. Are they going to give in to the Republicans in 2008 as they did in 2004 and in 2000. So the Green Party not only is a party for peace, but it also is the party of election integrity, because honestly, no one else is talking about this voter caging, and people are going to show up. We still have these electronic voting machines. Nothing has been done about that, despite the fact that the Democrats have control of both the House and the Senate and could do something about it, but they have not done anything about it. So,
right. So Cynthia,
we still have the electronic voting machines, and even additionally, we've got these electronic poll books now, which hold the voter file, and when people go to vote, these poll books have been shown, because they were used in my election, and this was the experience in my own election, that they will say that you already voted, even though the person will not have voted. And they will have incorrect information, or they won't have your name at all. And when you show up and your name isn't on the poll book, if your name isn't on the list, then you are not allowed to vote. We don't know how many times that happened in 2000 and 2004, but we do know that it happened. Now we know that it's purposeful behavior. They call it voter caging, but the bottom line is that they're disfranchising targeted Democratic Party voters. If the Democratic Party does nothing, then who's the spoiler? If they do nothing to protect their own voters, who's the spoiler? I think the spoilers are not the ones who expose that this has happened and who talk about it and who try to hold the system accountable. The real spoilers are the ones who let these things happen, even though they have the power to make it better.
And Cynthia, you mentioned the movie American Blackout, and a lot of the information you're just referring to can be actually viewed in that movie American Blackout, which people can actually watch online on YouTube, or of course order the video. You know, you mentioned the Democrats, and the Democrats allowed the passing of 2 Patriot Acts, the Secret Evidence Act, the Military Commissions Act, and a whole host of others, which basically do nothing but undermine the right to self-determination that our Constitution grants us. I would assume that if you won the presidential race, that you would repeal all of those as one of the high up on your agenda. Would that not be true?